Ja Morant is in the headlines again after a bizarre post-game interview on Friday night. He was suspended by the team for conduct detrimental to the team. Let's take a look at the clip.
What went wrong for you today?
Go ask the coaching staff.
Do you feel like, there was anything you could do differently, I guess?
You go ask them. They had a whole spiel in here, so.
From the outside, it did, and the outside may be wrong, but from the outside, it didn't look like you had your usual energy tonight.
Go ask the coaching staff why.
Okay.
You feel like you should play more?
Go ask the coaching staff. Should I play more or not?
What could have been done different to get a different outcome other than asking the coaching staff?
According to them, probably don't play me, honestly. That's what basically the message was after, so it's cool.
The coaching staff message was
It's
it?
cool, bro.
We good? You didn't have anything physically wrong in terms of illness or anything?
Oh, no,
you were under
I'm
the weather?
fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right.
This is a very interesting, I think, crossroads we're at with Ja's career. And we're going to have a little timeline. I'm going to run down some stuff for you guys right now. But you never want to speculate on what's going on behind the scenes because you never really know, especially being a former player. But if I were to guess, this is a little bit of a power struggle with the new head coach, Tomas Asilio. First time NBA head coach. And I've played for some great coaches. And one thing I know that new coaches try to do is they have to establish themselves in the locker room. Obviously, Taylor Jenkins being gone, he had a solid run there. There's a little bit of ups and downs with him in the locker room as well. But I think a new coach has to set the foundation, the precedents, and earn guys' respect and figure out how to do it because it's different these days. I know I've had coaches like Phil Jackson who would cuss Kobe's ass out so he can talk to everyone else as well. If he's going to do it to Kobe, that means he can do it to you. I know Stack has said that, Pop would cuss out Tim so he can do it to everyone else. So I think what this coach is trying to do is use Ja as an example, being the best player on the team. If he can attack him to possibly motivate him and help this team, that's probably, I'm guessing, where this coach was going. But that's still no excuse for the type of play that Ja let us see the other night. Obviously, everyone has off nights, 8 points, 3 for 12, whatever that was. I don't care about that. That shit's going to happen. But just the lack of effort, the lack of just not wanting to be out there, the lack of almost like, you're wasting my time having me out here type energy. That's something from a star player you can't have. I think there's no excuse for that. If you look at other star players, we would never let another star player slide like that because no matter how messed up it may be going between you and the coach, you and the team, what's going on in the locker room, your personal life, the stars have to be stars at all times. That's on both sides of the ball. I think Ja needs a fresh start, and we're going to take a look at a timeline of kind of, what's gone on of lately. But I think before the fresh start happens, I think he really needs to look at himself in the mirror because we were ready to hand this guy the keys to the league just 2.5 years ago. Someone who was averaging 27, 8 and 7, 27, 7 and 6, around those numbers. One of the most electrifying players we've ever seen come on the scene. An all-star. So he was must-watch TV. And year by year, that's gone down. Some of it's become because of injury, which is only natural. Some of it is because of the off-court shit. And the one thing that we used to hear back in the days, you never want your off-court bullshit to be louder than what you're doing on the court. When Ja was at the top of his game, I'm not sure how things were going in the locker room or if he had tough, situations within that organization because the play was doing so the play was doing all the talking. But since then, it's been just a decline in games played. He's played 313 out of 400, so it's about a 63% clip. Hasn't played over 65 games since his rookie season. And again, some of this is injury, some of this is suspension. Ja currently is at 21-7. Shooting percentage is at a career low. He's shooting 15% from the 3-point line. Again, this guy came in the game electrifying, and I think the one knock that everyone had is how long will he be able to play at this level at the rim? He's gone from nearly shooting 50% at the rim to this season only 28. Again, that ground is hard. you get fouled, injuries, your body is a little different. And we live in a game today where guys are making a living shooting. And Ja was able to break the mold because he didn't have to be forced to shoot. But if he's not able to get to the rim at will like he used to, his game is going to have to develop. So I say all that to say, I mean, I think he's still great. I think he has a lot of great miles left, but I also think he needs to look at himself in the mirror, because I think he's let the outside noise distract and be louder than what's on the court. So we're going to go a little jog down memory lane and give you, and this is not to bring up old shit or anything, but my point is just how he came in and took the world by storm, and where he currently sits at right now on a 3-4 basketball team, and a lost team that has no direction. It doesn't look like it has very much leadership. And that was what you think Ja at this point in his career. What's this, year 7 for him? Year 7, you think year 7, that's where he would be on all fronts.
And Matt, before we get into it, like when you're 26 years old, like where do you stand in the league? Like is that right around when you should be the prime of your career?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're heading to your prime athletic prowess in your 27, 28, 29, 30s. But more, this is the time where, year 7, where the game should have already started to slow down for you. And you're able to manipulate the game and understand the game and understand, yeah, we don't need him to be a lockdown defender, but we need him to play the passing lanes like Allen Iverson. We need him to work on his game and not be someone who's picked on. Like Steph was picked on early on, and Steph took that shit personal. And again, Steph's not a great defender, but he's not a weak link anymore. And I think that's what they need from Ja, is to be this 26. You look at an Ant Edwards who's not that much with the same. How old are they? Close to age, right?
2 3 year difference.
Yeah, there's not but obviously. And I think too, another issue with this younger generation is they didn't like, and this is not all of them, but not a lot of them had a lot of like real OG vets that could tell them anything and kind of guide them and help them steer this ship, not from a superstar perspective, but just as a player as you continue to get older perspective. But anyway, let's take a look at this journey. Number 2 overall pick in the 2019 draft brings electricity to Memphis. Memphis was much watch basketball Ja's rookie year. He obviously took home the rookie of the year. Year 2, the Grizzlies make the playoffs. He averages 30 points in a first round loss. So it's obviously showing growth and potential, and he's still must watch TV at this point. Year 3, breakout year, all-star starter, 1 most improved, averaging 27, 7, and 6. Takes his team to the conference semis. Unfortunately hurts his knee, misses the last 3 games, and that's kind of the end of their run. They lose in 6 to the Warriors, the year the Warriors go on to win a championship. So we're sitting right now, year 3. I think we're ready. Like, he's one of these people that we're talking about. If we rewind and remember, Braun's on the backside, Steph's on the backside, KD's on the backside. Who is going to be one of the faces or the face of the league? And this is when people are starting to say, like that boy out in Memphis, Ja is going to be at least one of them, if not the one. He's a rising star, signs his Nike deal. And there was rumors, I don't know if you guys heard this, but there was rumors that Nike was going to bring their version of Little Penny back for Ja. They were going to bring Little Ja, which would have been absolutely incredible. I think Penny hinted that when we had him on What's Burning at one point. So there was talks about him possibly having a Little Ja, which would have took the game to another level. He's currently sitting on his 3rd signature model of his shoe, and how I measure success on kids' shoes is how much I see them at AAU tournaments and who's wearing them, because that means they're being bought. I remember someone I used to see all the time was the Kyrie shoe. He was always at tournaments. Obviously, Kobe's shoes are at tournaments, but Ja's shoe was in heavy rotation. So it was working at one point. Let's take a look at 2022. This is the off season after he's hurt. He hurts his knee, right? 2022, allegedly, some things happen at Foot Locker. Later on, there's an incident, I think, at his house with a younger kid. And despite all that, he's still able to kind of move past that, because obviously when you're playing at a certain level, things are overlooked. He signs a max deal, 5-year, $193. Something that changed him and his family's life forever. The 2023 season, Ja stays in the headlines. January, there's an incident in Indiana with some friends and a light. This was also, obviously that stemmed over from some on the court shit that happened at the game. 2023, the unfortunate flashing a gun. This is when we were talking about people telling on themselves, I think, right? I think this is the whole thing where, he flashes something. The league suspends him for 8 games. Up until this point, he's still killing though. So the headlines are starting to get a little louder, but his game is just as loud. So it's allowed to continue. At this point, he's at 27, 8, and 6, and they were 34 and 19 in the Western Conference. The 2023 playoffs, Grizzlies losing 6 to the Lakers in round 1, which will put them, obviously finishes their season. May 2023, another gun incident on Instagram Live. I think his homie caught it. And at this point, this is when people are starting to make fun of him and almost disrespecting him, because 1 time is a mistake, 2 times is what? So again, he's incriminating himself. And again, I don't even want to bring up all this old shit, but my point of bringing it up is to make you guys understand how the game has suffered since all this off the court shit is starting to make more noise than the on the court shit. So he's suspended second time around. He suspended the beginning of the next season. Is that the 2023-2024? Misses 25 games. We thinking like, hey, I think this is going to wake him up. And from all aspects you think about it, did. He came in those 9 games, played 9 games, and was at 25, 8, and 6. And then he tears his labrum, which ends his season. This past season, only is able to play 50 games, 23 and 7. So the numbers are starting to dip a little bit. They're swept out of the playoffs. And now we're sitting here with a new coach who is trying to figure out, how do I get through this team? Can I go through the superstar to do it? I think you can tell by his energy and the way he handled that situation. Again, we don't want to speculate. It could be some real bullshit going on behind the scenes, but still, as the star player, you got to handle it a better way. So we're sitting here with a team that's under 500, and it takes me back to one of my original statements. I think he needs a fresh start. I think he's outgrown Memphis from a standpoint of just done a lot of shit there, on and off the court, good and bad. And, I think it's a good time for them to kind of press the reset button as a team. I think they got some good young talent. Obviously, Jaren Jackson is still there. I mean, this is a situation where do they try to clean house and try to rebuild with youth? Because if you look at this team as with Ja leading them and Jaren as his co-pilot, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, respectfully, especially in a tough Western Conference. Obviously, Shams reported there's tension, over the last few days with the head coach, who Nate butchered his name, and Ja. And again, I think if I'm looking at this thing, and I'm going to say it one more time, I think it's this head coach trying to figure out who can I go through to get through to the team. And normally you can use the best player as an example to talk to the rest of the team, but that hasn't worked. So again, we are now here. Let's think about a possible few places he can land. Let's keep in mind he's under contract until 2028, making $40 million, which is a lot of money, but with today's deals, that doesn't make him unmovable or untradeable. You can still move around and play with that and make a trade like that work. So we're going to give you a few scenarios. Houston is looking for a guard. Ja can definitely fill that role, which would be scary. They could send someone like a Shepherd, Eason, a Van Fleet. They have Phoenix's first round pick in 2027. So Houston could be a potential spot. Minnesota, they can throw a Nas Reed, a DiVincenzo, possibly a Rob Dillingham, who hasn't really got an opportunity yet. Terrence Shannon. Nas can't be traded till January because he just had an extension, but Minnesota is another destination. Ant and Ja, holy shit, would be scary. Phoenix, interesting situation. Obviously, there would be a package probably around Jalen Green. They're not giving up Devin Booker, but can Devin Booker and Ja play alongside each other? Great city. I think management needs to tighten up and get a little bit better, but a great city to play for, great fan base. And obviously Devin Booker, one of the most solid players in the game. And then last but not least, that we were thinking Miami, you can build something around Tyler Hero. Getting a fresh start in South Beach could be good for some. That'd be a big responsibility for Ja to be out in South Beach to get his fresh start. And possibly Brooklyn. Brooklyn has assets. They're looking for a star. After they lost KD and Kyrie and Harden, they've been looking for a new direction. So Brooklyn can be that big New York stage, but not necessarily be the Knicks kind of scrutiny and eyeballs where Ja can flourish there. Nate, the producer, it makes a good point. I think, because we also mentioned, we were talking in our pregame conversation, who else can use a new start? And obviously Trae Young's name came up to me. Zion came up to me, but producer Nate said Trae for Ja, and both get a fresh reset. And my thing to that is obviously that's a fresh reset, but I don't think that trade makes either team better, to be honest with you. So I think, them going to situations where they can thrive and be a piece of something big would be interesting. So we'll see. Again, the one thing I would say to Ja, because I'm a huge fan of him, Pops looked out for us this summer out in Memphis. We kicked it, and he opened the gym for us. And so, I mean, I love Ja, but I also feel like, sometimes in our position, we need to have some way of constructive criticism that hopefully gets through to the younger player that's not looked at as hate. Him and Perk just went back and forth. You saw that shit. That's not the position I'm trying to come in. My position is just incredibly talented, bro. The sky is still the limit for you. But to me, it's less about what's going on around you and more about what's going on within you and being able to tighten up and killing the shit off the court. There can be no more off the court bullshit, locker room distractions. You just got to go out there and be a killer. And again, you're still very capable of doing that, but that's going to come with hard work, bro. Your game has to improve, especially as you get older. That ground gets harder, and you're not an acrobat. You can't be an acrobat and dunk on everybody and hit the ground that many times. So, obviously the game has to steadily improve, but then also I think the mental mindset of being a 26-year-old superstar, more of a leader, more of, the guy the team can rally around, because when things were going good, you were that guy. I definitely think a new start would help this situation, but I think before it goes anywhere, you got to look at yourself in the mirror, bro, and really remember why you're doing this and lock back in, because you are one of the greatest players in this game, and this shit'll go by fast, man, if you don't capitalize on it.